has been bounded by God to be that husband and that wife, who are declared husband and wife by him in the church, just like he took Eve from her hand and he put her in the hand of Adam. And that is very pleasurable moment. The last thing I mentioned is that he allowed that the two would share with him the ability to create a human being. It's something that is beyond comprehension. When the woman, and the wife, and the husband, due to the loving relationship, this becomes fruitful with a human being, as a human being. And one day, hopefully all the ladies here will see that miracle happening. And they see the child either coming out of the womb, and they will look like they wouldn't comprehend how did they make it. This is actually a human being coming out of the womb. This is something that is beyond comprehension. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And God is a creative God who does miracles, and He wants us to share this with Him. So He gave us this beautiful system. It's called human sexuality. The last thing that I want to end with is a common question. Why does God give us sex very early in life when He wants us to use it late? And the answer of this is that, again, we think that way because we think that sex is only the act of sex. But the word sex is beyond the act of sex. The word sex should be in the mind of us Christians as a broad system of human sexuality that starts very early, not only in puberty, by the way. You think that people become aware of their sexuality around when the hormones start activating in puberty. But in fact, this system is functional in the very first moment of conception. When conception happens, it is human sexuality that determines the sex and the gender of the new form gametes. The XY chromosome will decide whether this is a male or a female. And then during development in the uterus, that same system works in developing the organs, whether male or female. And then during the early years of development, that same hormonal system will be functioning in determining the sexual orientation of that person and sexual sense of whether this is a boy or a girl. وبعدين after that in puberty is that when the secondary sexual characteristics start to kick in and develop a mature adult kind of human being, whether it's a male or a female. And then finally it works its way to the dating relationship and then the actualization of this sex life in marriage. This whole spectrum of things are related to the sexuality system. And that's why it needed to be there from day one for all these other functions. And glory be to God. Any questions? So, that's the time we did. Okay.
I'm going to... So basically, if you post a question and then repeat to another question, just going to try to condense for the sake of time, so that works. So the first question is sex for any other reason, creation wrong, for example, is sex for pleasure?
I'm not that fast. I have to slow down.
So is sex for any other reason than creation wrong? For example, is sex for pleasure wrong?
Did you attend? Yeah, there are 5 other reasons. Creation was the last one. But no, in marriage, God wanted us to have pleasure with our spouses and to have this unique relationship in marriage that is dominated by joy. It's a very joyful relationship. And it's really sad, and I'll tell you this honest as a father for you. It's really sad to see beautiful young men and women like you grow and then get to the point of marriage and have a beautiful celebration, and then joy ends a month after. It's really sad, and that's a story that is not once or twice, it's very repeated. To the extent that you get to a point that you're fearful of marriage. You're afraid. But that's not God's design. And that's why I started with Psalm 1. Psalm 1 tells you that the reason why you end up in a perished relationship, perished way of life, is that we take the ungodly way. We take the mind of the world about the designs of God. So we take sexuality, which is given and designed by God, and use it with the worldly way. And that doesn't start in marriage, that starts now. Because we have that tool inside of us, we all have it. Like I said, from day one, we all have it. Okay, maybe day 1, 2, 3, and 4, until we are puberty. In the puberty, we were kind of not aware. But right now, we are aware. And this lecture was geared exactly towards raising your awareness about the design, the right design of sex. So, for us, any one of us, to misuse that design is the beginning of very that sad story.
Someone asks, or multiple people ask, what is your opinion of oral sex?
Think of it, depending on what we said. So any question, let's run it by the 6. The 6 points that represent the design of God about sex. Okay? So what does oral sex do? It gives self-pleasure, or one-sided pleasure. Why? Because only one side is getting stimulated. That's not the design of God. The design of God is that the mutual pleasure. And therefore, each one is giving. Okay? And again, if that question gears to premarital, that's a whole different story. In marriage, the couple decide how they can reach that point of mutual pleasure. But if that question is geared towards premarital, then it's lusting. Then it should be answered by what Christ said in the Sermon on the Mount. Christ said not only oral sex is wrong, even sex at a distance is wrong. You have lust at a distance. Some? Well, whoever looks and lusts has committed adultery. All of the above. حاجة من التحزين جدا في الاعتراف. One thing that made me sad when I hear in confession is that a lot of youth would consider anything short of sexual intercourse as practicing sex, immoral sex. Anything short of a full relationship, we don't consider sex. That's not the design of God. That's not the mind of Christ. The mind of Christ is, if you look at a distance and you lust, you've committed adultery since you're not married. You're not taking that person that you are practicing sex with from the hands of God. So you outsmarted God, you came out of the design of God. Say, God, خليك انت على الشال شوية, احنا we have mutual relationship. That's not the mind of God.
What is the opinion of the church on contraceptives?
Contraceptives are okay as long as there is no killing of the new fetus or gametes. Yeah, as long as it's before conception. Well, the contraceptive that works before conception is fine. It's preventing it. It's a prevention. Anything like this is fine. Because like I said, it goes back to the first question, is creation is the only reason that, creation is not the only reason that God gave this tool. He gave this tool for the 6 different reasons. And one more, I don't usually mention, it's not protection. That's not a C. It starts with a T, protection. It's mentioned in 1 Corinthians that each one of you shall have a wife or a husband for protection from immoral sex. For protection, to keep us not misusing. So if someone is really not able to be a mom, which is most of us, or none, then it's better to have a wife or husband for protection. But again, contraception is fine unless it kills the new after conception. It kills the new gamete, because then it becomes abortion.
When you have committed adultery, that is all about intercourse itself. How do you repent and speak about it with your father of confession?
Very simple. You just understand what you said today and go to God and tell Him, forgive me, and you come and say, forgive me, and you're accepted. But you can't fool God. It has to be from your heart. And by the way, we're all tempted, and we all repent, but it has to be from the heart. And there is something called spiritual virginity, where you can always be virgin again, just like St. Moses the Black, for example, or many, many others. Become spiritually virgin. But you can't fool God. But if you want to go the godly way, like Psalm 1 says, and prosper in your future marriage, that is the way to go. There's a lot of divorces because of the way we practice sex and the way we set ourselves up for a failure by practicing premarital ways of sex.
So someone asks, if sex is an important part of theology, psychology, and physiology, why does St. Paul in 1 Corinthians suggest against it and says only if a person cannot control himself?
لا هو ما قالش only for that reason. هو St. Paul himself was celibate. But all the rest of the apostles were not. St. Peter was not. Most of the apostles were married. But Christ clearly indicated that the normal way is to be married. Clearly. Again, Matthew 19 and Mark 10, when he said, they are from the beginning, he created them male and female, and said, the man shall leave his father and mother, unite with his wife, and the two become one flesh. He said that in the two Gospels, Matthew and Mark. And then when the disciples asked him and said, well, that's very difficult when he talked against divorce. They said to him, but that's difficult. He said, we can't, I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said that not all the people can become monks and nuns, but this is given to specific people. I'm paraphrasing the meaning that Christ told him. The mainstream way is marriage. St. Paul has, in one specific occasion in 1 Corinthians, he actually spoke about sexuality. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 4, 5, and 6, St. Paul explains sex, basically. Hello? That's in other place, he talked against marriage by saying that if you really, really want to focus on God, then maybe you should consider to live celibate. That's what he said, to focus. But he didn't really mean that this is something that is wrong or bad.
So someone says, these are two questions combined into one. Someone says, what do you do when you committed adultery and can't get yourself to genuinely repent? Meaning you really don't feel guilty. And the second one, which is related, says, it says, if I have a negative image of sex in my mind and it's overtaken me, how do I come out of it? So the first one says, if I don't feel guilty. The second one says, if I have a negative image in my mind, then how do I overcome that?
Yeah, it all starts by, don't start by the sin itself. Start by having a personal relationship with Christ. We are so lucky that we are born in a faith where our God is so loving and compassionate, and He deserves our attention. He is the one who came to give us everything, and give us life, and give it to us more abundantly than any other way. So He deserves the love back. And that's where you start. But if you focus on, I heard today that sex before marriage is wrong, and I just need to change that, because Abuna said, you will be not prosperous. You're talking about material kind of things still. But start by making a person, like I said in the beginning, the vertical axis of that marriage between you and God is what really matters. So if you really want a good marital life and sexual life, work right now on your relationship with Him, with your Redeemer, your heavenly groom. Your heavenly groom. I forgot to tell you about the whole book of Song of Solomon is about that relationship between us and God, Him as a groom and us as a bride. And St. Paul also mentioned that I betrothed you to a heavenly groom. So focus on that relationship, and that will occasionally, eventually will clear your heart, even if you have committed any other sin. And just like St. Moses the Black did again. Once he found that loving relationship, he cleared his life. One drop of the blood of Christ is enough to clear all the sins of ours. But it's not a big problem for God. Only find this relationship. And that happens in your own room. Doesn't need to happen here. In your own room, upper room, corner, you develop that personal relationship and work on it.
So, last two. So the first one says, can two people grow together and get closer to God, or does each person in the couple have to be independently close to God?
That's the second one. Each one has to independently be close to God first, I have to say. because the other statement is correct as well. Of course, we will help each other to grow together. But don't wait for that to be the only source of your growth. You have to work right now on your development, spiritual development. That will maximize your chance in having a good relationship. And St. John Chrysostom has a nice saying where he says, for each of the two spouses to have a good marital relationship, they have to marry Christ first. Okay? To get married to Christ first.
So this person asks, I heard him talk that one must confess after sex with his spouse, knowing that sex. I heard from a talk that one must confess after sex with his spouse or her spouse, knowing that sex is from God. Why would he say that? Is this correct?
No. With all respect to the speaker, you don't have to confess sexual relationships in marriage. There is actually a clear verse that St. Paul said in Hebrews, that the bed is honorable. The bed of marriage, is honorable. And the marriage is honorable as well. So the marriage is honorable, the sexual relationship is honorable. And طبعا اللي بيعترف بعدها أو اللي بيتhinking that this is something sinful, that is carrying bad information from the world view of sexuality. There are so many of those. So many who think that sex is sinful and that Satan is related directly to it. Immoral sex, yes. Immoral. The sex that is not according to the design of God. It's fueled by Satan. But the original design of sex is godly. Okay, does that make sense? Like when you get a Mercedes-Benz or a Tesla car, and you go by the manual, then it's good. But if you decide to put charcoal in it, تعملها بالمنفلة أو put some vaccine زي اللي جبت الحمار كده في المشكلة، طبعا what do you get? It's going to start bubbling up and blow up. You don't replace the design of God by anything that is really lower than that standard.
How do you know what to do once you're married?
That's why we have. No, I wish that most of us are like this. I actually wish that we are all simple, if you're not exposed to any sexual explanation or experience كده, that's not actually a bad. أحسن لي أعرف إن you're not exposed and you don't know this thing from. It's better than you have knew the bad knowledge or practice the bad design. But in any way, the two situations, whether you don't know or you know the wrong way, we do these sessions, and there is a course, premarital course, that we do, and actually in Abuna's center. كنا بنعمله زمان physically في center St. George Church, but right now it's online. Okay, it's called Canon Prep course. It's a preparation for marriage, and we have a couple of lectures there about sex and marriage, and we explain in more details, more details. Today I give the theology of it, but in the canon tract we go from the theology to the real practice. But in the design of God. Okay? That's not the only source. There should be برضه احنا عاملين هنا book طالع من him from this church. It's called Purity Book, and it explains everything about sexual education in a godly way and an orthodox way from pre-K until the 12th grade. So there are sources like this, and parents should be one of the ones who speak about it. If you're ready beyond speaking to the parents about this, then you can ask the father of confession or any trusted servant.
And last one, it says, can you have communion after previously having sex?
Not in the last night, and it's not because anything defiled about the couple, but it's just like the fasting idea that we do, preparing our bodies for communion. We put communion at a very high level in our worship, and therefore we fast, meaning dedicate our minds and bodies and soul and everything for that event when we will unite with our heavenly groom. So we put aside the earthly groom, our earthly spouse, for the last night, only the last night. Just like we fast after 12 a.m. from food, the same applies to sexual relationship. That's the only reason. But nothing indicates that the relationship is defiled or wrong or sinful. Nothing like that. Do you get the idea? Okay. And that's biblical. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 6.
So someone in the same vein says, why can't we have sex during fasts or feasts?
Well, feasts? Not the fasts. But even that is not, I'm going to correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a canon law. Is it? The canon law? It's not a canon law of the church. It's something that the father of confession will talk about with the spouses, and it's not really a hard rule at all, because again, it's like food. مثلا we don't generalize that a way of fasting, our number of hours of fasting, of abstinence, for all the people. It's individual with the father of confession, and most of the time it's very flexible. Good? Good, thank you. Glory be to God for everything. Thank you very much for listening.
It's awkward to thank a woman who's a phone, but I have to thank her for speaking of the topic that we rarely hear about and we rarely talk about, and sometimes we don't have enough knowledge about it. And so I thank the Lord for that. And the second thing I'd like to thank the Lord for is for opening the church for us on a weekly basis. It's such a great blessing, especially with all with the circumstances that we're going through. So thank you, Abuna, and thank St. Mary's and the Creators for opening its door for us. I'd like to thank also all of you who attended the Zoom Thanksgiving gathering. We thank you, and thank you for understanding the circumstances, but it's really out of our control. We'd like to thank the e-board for doing an amazing job and pulling it together very last minute. and it was like a moving target. First, there was maybe a thought to have in a place, maybe there's food, maybe there's not, maybe outside events. Then, after all said and done, very last minute, it was totally changed. So we have to thank them for that, for doing a great job, an awesome job. May God bless their service, and Taban, especially our two presidents, we thank them for leading the e-board. And of course, everybody else, especially the VP for the second time. Where is he? He's not here. So it was planned next week, Wednesday at 1 o'clock at the Liturgy. I know Newark is shut down. So I don't know if we're going to have it mostly. I'm assuming no, since it's in Newark. It's a citywide, right? That's my assumption, but stay tuned. We'll find out. But if we do have it, it's going to be in the Newman Center at 1 o'clock. That means you fast from 12 to 8, not 9 hours. Remind you, I checked, last time I checked in the CDC, I was surprised to see that the social distancing recommendation is still 6 feet. It hasn't changed, right? I'm sorry, you're sick and tired of hearing me saying it, but it's very real. And the reason why we had our event on Zoom is because our community is very small and very close-knit. And God forbid, when it spreads out, it's going to be not a pretty thing. And the first thing that's going to close are our churches. Keep that in mind. We all go to church, so when it gets, when it spreads in our community, you're going to go after the churches. I guarantee. We already have like 3 or 4 churches, Coptic churches in the area that already closed down for the same purpose. So please, not for the churches, not for you, do it for your parents. Okay? Should I say it again? I don't know if you're going to meet next week. There's nothing.
Alright, so this is the attendance for today. And in the attendance it has our survey. So this most likely is looking like our last meeting of the year, of the semester. So it sounds like meeting. We'll see you guys in February or whatever. No, yeah, we might have liturgy like one said, and we'll obviously let you know if anything changes. So this will include some questions. Please take some time to answer these questions truthfully, and like with a mind. Like don't just say like hi or like one word answers. Like actually try to put some input into this, because this is what helps us make society better. We have no precedence for this. We're flying by the seat of our pants, so we have no idea what we're doing. So this helps us, flying our tune and polish the meeting for our betterment. Number 2 is that so we have the shirts. We paid for shirts for the Thanksgiving dinner. So if you registered and paid for Thanksgiving dinner, you have a shirt. We're not going to hand it in church because of social distancing. So here's what we're going to do. After Abuna gives us the benediction and dismisses, Abuna Thomas is going to be in church, available for confession for those that want to confess. Everyone else, we need you to exit the church. We can't loiter in the halls. We can't go in the rooms. We just need everyone to exit the church. And we're going to hand out the shirts and the pre-packaged pies in the bank. So the bank, just follow a valuable person, they know where the bank is. Okay, it's just go down this street here, and we're just going to form a single file line. We're going to be distanced from each other. We're going to have different lines for different sizes. We're going to keep our masks on, take our shirts, take our pies, and then go home leave there. Okay? If we meet up somewhere else, but like, so just take your shirts and dip, is what we're kind of saying. All right? Okay. So